It's Heart Month. Hello and welcome to WJTS in.form. I'm your host, Bill Potter. Joining me in the studio is Jan Dougan. Jan is the Health and Sciences Educator.
Health and Human Sciences Extension Educator.
All right,
you got
with
it,
the Purdue
Bill.
Extension. Thank you, Jan. And we have her here on these evenings to talk about healthy eating and trying to give you some ideas to live a healthier eating life. February is Heart Month, so we need to be concerned about our heart. And let's talk about the push in this month is to get people to eat healthier and to probably exercise as well. What is the number one thing we do wrong for our heart?
The number one thing we do wrong for our heart as far as eating, Bill, is probably getting too much sodium. I would have to rank that as probably the number one thing, that if we can change anything so that we can have a heart healthy lifestyle, it would be to reduce sodium. And the thing is, a lot of people say, well, I don't use salt anymore. I don't shake the salt shaker. I don't add salt when I'm cooking. I don't add salt at the dinner table. But our sodium comes from a lot of other food sources.
Well, I think even some of the drinks we drink, we don't realize how much sodium is in fruit juices sometimes. There's actually sodium in a fruit juice.
It's very important if you have a heart issue, if you are concerned about your heart health, that you start reading nutrition labels and that you look on that nutrition label for the sodium. So if anybody at home's watching, get something out of your cabinet and let's take a look at that nutrition label. And when you look on that nutrition label, you should look for the word sodium and then look how many milligrams of sodium are in that product. But the easy way for you to tell if it's a good choice or not, look at the daily value. That would be to the far right of the word sodium on that nutritional label. And think about that 5-20 rule. If it's under 5% of your daily value, it's a better choice for you. If it's over 20%, that means that you're getting over 20% of your daily value of sodium that you need from that particular product. So you want to be aware of reading nutritional labels and how that can help you reduce your sodium intake. You know, I mentioned that sodium is in a lot of the foods that we eat. It's in a lot of our processed foods. And so it's easy to grab something that's processed to eat. But that's where we really need to look at the sodium content of those labels.
I guess it would surprise us maybe how much sodium in some of the foods we eat, that there's even sodium in it, because we may not even realize just because you don't taste it doesn't mean it's not there.
Correct. That's correct.
And if you start adding up all that you do, there is a lot of sodium. Now, I guess we don't want to say salt is bad, because don't they say salt is the pillar of life? So you need some amount of sodium, I'm sure.
We need some salt in our diet. We do, but we tend to get way too much. And one of the things that individuals that have participated in extension programs have shared with me, that when they start cutting back, they really don't miss it that much. So how can you cut back? That's a question a lot of folks ask. So we talk about not using the salt shaker, but substituting for flavor, because salt enhances the flavor of the food that we eat. And so that's why we want to salt our foods, to enhance that flavor, and we want to taste that. We get accustomed to that taste and we're used to that, so we want to keep doing it. So to cut back, sometimes it's helpful to cut back slowly, not do it all at once. And to substitute. So to try using herbs, try using spices to season things, hot sauce to season things, rather than using the salt.
Isn't there a product, and I think it's called Mrs. Dash or something?
There is.
I'm sure there's similar products like that.
There are several products on the market that are good substitutes that don't have salt in it. Now, when you look at seasonings in the grocery store, again, you really need to read the labels. You need to take time to read your labels to know what you're using and what you're buying. For example, one of the common things that I've noticed is lemon pepper. So, Bill, you think that has salt in it?
Well, only because you're asking, I'm going to say yes, it does. Otherwise, I would have thought not.
It does. That's one of the first ingredients in lemon pepper. You wouldn't think that if you read the label lemon pepper, but when you look at the ingredients, you'll notice that it has salt in it. So we've just got to take time to read those labels, know what we're buying, know what we're using when we're preparing foods at home or when we're eating out.
Now, I know in the past, you on one of these shows, you talked about if you got a can of beans, there's a lot of sodium in beans. There's a lot of sodium in a can of corn. But pour the liquid off and rinse them before you cook them. It eliminates some sodium. See, I remember some things.
I am so proud of you, Bill, that you remember that. And some of the research from some of the land-grant universities indicates that you can reduce the sodium content of a canned vegetable through rinsing with cool water in a strainer by up to 40%. Now, not always, you know, but up to 40%. So that can really help. When you're looking at buying produce, fresh produce, there's going to be less sodium. But frozen produce is the same. There's going to be less sodium in frozen produce versus the canned. Canned might be cheaper. It may or may not be. You just need to look at the prices there.
If someone is going to grill a ribeye steak, the steak itself has no sodium. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. It's that we put a whole bunch of other stuff on top of it.
Yeah, some of the seasonings that we use, maybe some of the condiments that we use might have the sodium in it. So a great idea I heard just yesterday was, you know, when you grill a pork chop, instead of putting that seasoning salt on it that sometimes people like to use, try putting mustard on it and then some herbs like maybe thyme or rosemary even, to enhance the flavor of that pork chop. So, you know, you just got to think about what we're doing, read those labels, and actually make a commitment to using less sodium. That's the first step.
Well, you know, when they first came out with this ruling that you had to put labels on all the foods and all the cans, I really thought, oh, that's silly. That's taking it too far. We don't need to know all that. But then the more you come on this show, I find that I am looking at the labels, and I'm surprised at what I'm finding out. Even cereal, the amount of sodium that can be in cereal. Just different things like that. It's surprising to me, the amount of sodium, so it makes me stop and think a little bit about what I'm eating and maybe look for an alternative.
Right. I'm glad to hear that, Bill.
You're getting to me. Eventually, I'm going to start eating healthy. You know that, Jan. Now, another thing for your heart is the amount of fat intake that we take in. Fat, good or bad?
Well, there are good fats and there are bad fats. So we want to try to choose a healthier fat to cook with to begin with. So we want to think in terms of using olive oil or using canola oil in food preparation. We really don't want to use lard anymore, and I know it's still available in some of the stores around here, and some people really like to use that. But if you have heart issues, if you have health issues, you really need to switch up your oil and choose a healthier, a heart-healthy oil like the olive oil or like the canola oil. You know, we want to have some fat in our diet. We need fat in our diet to kind of keep everything lubricated and keep things moving through, but we want to reduce that and choose a healthier fat. So how can we reduce? You know, I know we like to fry foods around here, and I wouldn't tell anyone who loves fried foods to not ever have them again, but maybe to cut back. Maybe instead of having it 3 times a week, you could cut back to having it a couple times a week.
In fried foods, we're not just talking about chicken nuggets. We're really, you know, there's also fried vegetables. We fry a lot of different things. Is bacon considered a fried food? You fry the bacon, but I don't know if that's considered fried.
No, I wouldn't consider bacon a fried food. And you know, there's a great
So I can eat a lot of bacon?
Well, you should limit, you know, everything in moderation, Bill,
okay, all
and
right.
lots of variety. That's what I want you to do. And there's actually a great technique to cook bacon in the oven, where you can put it on a baking sheet and bake it in the oven, and then if you have it on a rack on the baking sheet, then all that fat goes through to the bottom, and then you don't get any of that. And that's a great way if you've got family over and you need to do a lot of bacon, because you can do a lot in one time.
Does it come out nice and crispy?
It
like
does
that?
come out nice and crisp and flat.
Oh, that's a key right there.
Yes.
Okay, very important. So we need to watch the amount of the fat intake that we have. And we're not saying that you can't eat fried foods, because I like fried foods and I'm going to eat fried foods, but I probably eat too much, so I should maybe cut back a little bit.
Right, just cut back and enjoy those things that you like. Enjoy them in moderation. Maybe watch your portion sizes. Maybe, you know, instead of eating 3 pieces of fried fish, you want to eat 2 pieces of fried fish.
Okay.
And, you know, fill that plate with more
yeah,
vegetables.
don't we need to do something with half the plate needs to be vegetables?
Yeah, remember, half our plate needs to be fruits and vegetables, our protein, our grains, and our dairy.
All right, Jan, thank you very much. We hope everybody has a Healthy Heart Month in February. And remember, you can keep watching on WJTS, as on Wednesday nights, Jan comes in and talks about things that'll help you live a healthier lifestyle. Right now, we're mostly concentrating on eating, but there's other things that you can do to live a healthy lifestyle. Jan Dougan, thank you very much for coming in and speaking with us. Thank you for watching WJTS in.form. We are local people watching local people.